Hello everyone, welcome to another entry in the ongoing The Hand That Feeds HQ's review Advent Calendar 2021. This time around I'm going to talk a bit about Shotawoi's Murasaki. The suggestion was by Julia. So let's check this song. That's the shamisen there. That's the lead. That's an intro. Right off the bat, you have the shamisen, the traditional Japanese element or instrument. In this case, it is a strings instrument. It has 3 strings and it is played in a really unique way, using a really unique pick, should I say. Not in a really unique way. As long as you know how to play a guitar, you will be grasping a shamisen, I would say, with some ease. It's not necessarily an easy instrument to play, but you will be more knowledgeable of where to put your fingers and how to play it, although the pick is completely different from a guitar pick. So you have a shamisen playing there. In contrast, you have electronica. It's a big element within Shotawoi's repertoire. He is usually big on EDM pop. And right now you have traditional Japanese music and EDM in the same place. How will this all fare now that we're moving past the intro to the very first verse? This is almost like going to the 17th century and basically deciding that the shamisen is dance club music. Basically. This is an interesting take on traditional music and how it was incorporated within this song that is clearly made for the dance floor. Traditional Japanese music is not made for the dance floor, but the way the song was composed made it so that it actually works. It's a bit overwhelming at first, but you have so much going on that you actually won't grasp much from the very first seconds, especially this intro part with Shotawoi going for those high notes. But we are going to see more of these developing, and how will those traditional elements really work within an EDM song. Yeah, you have in the background taiko drums. Those are being played really far back, or were really set within the soundstage really far back, so that you don't pay much attention to those. But those are adding an additional accent to the song, another twist or another traditional twist to the song. At the same time, the melody that you listen to at first on the shamisen is still going on in the background, or really taking the lead, because you don't have many elements going on right now, because all that electronica was really put aside for a moment to give a place for Shotawoi to actually showcase his vocals. That's the electronica going on. Let's go. That synth. I really like that accent within the song, and it repeats itself plenty of times during the chorus to add a layer of, I should say, beauty to the song, because it is a really delicate element added to an instrumental that is going hard on the bass line. It's actually a pretty aggressive bass line going on in the background. which is interesting because it serves as a contrast to Shotawai's delicate vocals, and he's performing it mostly in head voice, which is tricky as hell. So that's a really nice contrast going on in there. Notice how that melody from the shamisen was incorporated right here. You have a synth that is actually following the same melody and actually kind of lends a hand to the shamisen to work within the EDM track that is going on. The beat is of course much more intense than I was expecting that I recalled, but it works pretty well. There's the shamisen in the background. The taiko drums that were in the background now are no longer noticeable or audible. They may be in the background, but really far back. They were replaced by this massive beat that is really strong on the bass drum. It really adds a layer of intensity to the song. It really adds that vibe that is the song is made for the dance floor, and it works well. But I was expecting the taiko drums to at least be have a bigger presence in this section. Those fading synth stabs going on work well as a build-up in tension. That's an arpeggio going down, not upwards, which is interesting. It's a stylistic choice right there. Usually you do your arpeggios going up, not going down. And I seriously like the way it was added to the song and how much it adds to the overall enjoyment of this song. But that's a really neat detail that you may not notice. That's an arpeggio going downwards instead of upwards. I really like when he goes for those notes really on head voice, because contrary to the falsetto that sounds really fickle and incredibly breathy, when he goes to the head voice is really strong and it's really powerful, although it still sounds breathy, but not as much. Those high notes sound way better in head voice than they do in falsetto, and he really nails those high notes right there in head voice. And he always does that midway through a sentence in which he is performing in the mid-tone to add an interesting flair to the song. I really like that touch. It has started, or it has been a trend of his in the last couple of years. And back when this song was released in 2015, it was still something really refreshing. I remember finding that pretty interesting about the way he sang, because he goes for a mid-tone, really stable mid-tones, and then he adds head voice there. Those are flourishes that really make a performance stand out. Even when the song or the performance wasn't really with the aim to stand out, it really sits really well with the type of artist that Aoi is, the intensity that he has to his songs, and really the technique that he has as a singer. We now have two different melodies on the shamisen. We have the same melody that is looping since the start on your right here, and now you have a different melody going on in your left here, and it is on a higher key, much more delicate than the one going on your right. This is a part that really asks for a dance break. Really. I really enjoy when he goes for those full warm notes that aren't necessarily within his tenor range or are in the lowest parts of his tenor range. He really sounds really smooth and buttery in those notes, and you can tell the warmth that he brings to the performance because of that. In contrast to those high notes that he has going on in the pitch vocals. There's that again. Head voice, plenty of it. Wow. Notice how he goes for a mix of legato, a bit of vibrato, some falsetto but not too much, head voice, and he's riffing through his notes. He's actually doing pretty much everything on the vocal end, although his performance doesn't sound like it. It's pretty interesting how he makes that sound effortless, and it is so smooth, the transitions between those techniques and the way he actually adds those to the way he's singing, that you barely even notice those, or that he is preparing himself to add a high note or to add a part with vibrato here and there. You don't have a way to... he doesn't have a tell that he's going to add something flashy to his performance, but he's actually being pretty flashy since the start, which is really, really cool. And he now is performing with the Nenka style. What can he not do? Really, Shotoe really does everything on the vocal end. And he wraps up the song performing in Enka style, which is pretty tricky to pull off. Not only you have those arpeggios on the shamisen to wrap up, which is really difficult to pull off, then you have an arp going for those same arpeggios to wrap up. Ooh, that's a song. More than being a dance song just for being a dance song, Murasaki by Shotawa is really a celebration of traditional Japanese music, but giving it a modern twist, or should I say a trendy twist to it. It really is a blend of traditional Japanese music with EDM. There are plenty of other seiyuu artists that have done that before, but he really does have a unique twist to his music that makes this song sound a bit more impressive, because it's not really easy to embrace EDM music and at the same time traditional Japanese music. Those sound like completely opposites, but those ended up working in the end. And you have here a danceable song with traditional elements that are made for the dance floor, which is strange. And you have a performance that mixes traditional pop music style of singing and enka, which is a traditional Japanese style of singing, which is pretty impressive. Once again, it's not easy to pull off enka style of singing. There are very, very, very few seiyuu artists that actually can pull off enka style of singing, and Shotaway is actually one of them. This is a really impressive song. I really like Murasaki. I do remember the chorus, but I didn't remember the verses. And this is a song that I actually recommended to check because there's that timeless beauty of traditional Japanese music, and then that's that trendy sound from EDM music, especially if you like danceable music or well pop in general. You will like the song because the traditional elements are incorporated or assimilated by the song and work pretty well within it. Those do not take the center stage. Although the shamisen melody that is looping from start to finish will actually make it sound like, well, it is leading the way. Yes, it is leading the way, but it's not the main element. The main element is, of course, the voice. Murasaki by Shotaway is really, really interesting. It is a song layered and with pretty interesting ideas going on there. It is a really good way to showcase how good of a singer Shotaway is, because enka is not easy to pull off, and is actually singing in a really technical way even before reaching that part that is enka. So you have that as well. An interesting composition, an interesting blend of old and new, of elegant and fun in the same place, as well as Shotaway's unique vocals on top. This was Shotaway's Murasaki, a song suggested by Julia. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next entry.